Welcome to Prudent Media and this show Gazali. Gazali is about talks, but here today we have a man with us who walks the talk. He is Arvind Kejariwal. Arvind Kejariwal, the information warrior, the transparency crusader, and I will say the Magsaysay award winner, of course, the rest all, the best Indian award in public service, but that's all history. The future of India belongs to Arvind Kejariwal. Arvind has been here in Goa for last some days and he has charged Goa with fire of enthusiasm. Arvind, my question to you would be, how was the spark ignited in you first? How did the magic roll on?
Actually, it didn't happen by one incident or overnight. Actually, it's been a process. I was working in income tax department. I belong to IRS, Indian Revenue Service of 92 batch. And in my own department, one used to see corruption, and one has been seeing that in India, if there is an ordinary person and if he wants to get his work done in his day-to-day life, if he's done everything right and he wants to lead an honest life, that option does not exist with him. He is forced to pay bribes. I call it extortionist form of bribery. So it all started that in the year 2000, some of us decided that let's provide that option to a common man in a country who doesn't want to pay bribes, he's done everything right and he wants to lead an honest life. Can we provide an option to him? So it started with this. We started a small NGO called Parivartan. And after that,
before coming to Parivartan,
right.
Parivartan transformation, see, I would like you to go still back. We have a saying in our local language that a child's legs are seen in his cradle. How were you as a kid? How were you when you were 5 years old, 10 years old?
I was very ordinary person.
And were you filled with this kind of dreams or?
No, actually I used to be very good at academics. I was always a topper. But that's it. I was I never participated in any sports. I didn't participate in any other activities, and that's it. I was a very, very ordinary child, a very ordinary
So how
person.
did that Parivartan came in you before you became that IAS officer and all? I want that free story. How did you change yourself? See, a lot of youngsters are going to listen to this program.
Right.
And I'm sure you are a best inspirational, encouraging example to them.
Right. I can't say. The first thing I can recollect what happened to me was I was working in Tata Steel after doing my engineering in IIT Kharagpur. I was working in Tata Steel. I took civil services exams and I got through in the first attempt. I again took second attempt, and after getting giving my mains, I suddenly one day resigned from Tata Steel and went and joined Mother Teresa and worked with Mother Teresa for about a few months. Then I went to the Bodoland. I worked with tribals for a few months, then came back. I got an interview call for the civil services. Then I went to the villages in Haryana before I joined the civil services. So I think maybe it's already inside that when one sees injustice around, when one sees poverty around, then there is something that provokes you to react to that, to do something about it. Maybe everything is not in our hands. So I think that's what has been there. And so how it started, where it started, it's very difficult to say.
Yeah. Now, what do you think? You have been talking of transparency. You have been talking of that we can get works achieved without paying a single rupee bribe. Are they tall dreams? What are your experiences?
You see,
people find it difficult to believe, though they respect you a lot.
Right. I completely agree with you. It all started, when we started in Parivartan, we started telling people that don't pay bribes in income tax department. I used to belong to income tax department. Don't pay bribes in income tax department. If you have a grievance, you give it to us and we'll get your work done free of cost. Then we started don't pay bribes in electricity department. But slowly and gradually what we started realizing was that where all can we go? We are just a small group of people. Where all will we go? How many departments will we cover? It's not possible. It's not sustainable. At that time, Delhi government passed Delhi Right to Information Act in 2001. I read that law and I was quite amazed by the potential of that law. So what we used to tell people at that time was that don't pay bribes. You give your case to us. And we used to present that case to the department, so in a way we were acting as a middleman. And we were feeling very uncomfortable about it, that we were acting as a middleman, we were not taking money, but the people themselves were not, they were not empowered. When Right to Information Act came in Delhi, the first case that came to us, someone called Ashok Gupta, he had heard about us. He came to us and he said that I had applied for a new electricity connection and they are asking for a 5,000 rupees bribe. So please take this case. I have heard that you people get the cases solved. Please take this case and get. So we said no, there is a Right to Information Act. We drafted his RTI application and we told him that you take this application, you go yourself to the department and submit this application. He submitted that application and within 10 days he got his electricity connection.
That's interesting. Arvind, you would like to know, in Goa, somehow we have a different definition of bribery and corruption. If you pay bribe to somebody and he doesn't do your work, we say that he's a corrupt guy.
Okay.
But if you pay bribe to somebody
and he
cannot do your work and he returns your monies, the guy says, I'm honest, I'm corrupt. Many times people are asking, why not legalize corruption?
Right.
That is the situation that we are leading to.
I think it's a cynicism, that level of cynicism that has grown in our society.
How will self-governance be an answer to this kind of a thing?
Self-governance, you see.
Because you are a champion of self-governance.
Right. Firstly, everything has a place in democracy, and all these things put together. Right to information is important, accountability of the government is important, self-governance is important. What we are saying is that our democracy, Indian democracy, somehow seems to be incomplete. It is once in 5 years democracy. You go out and vote once in 5 years, and then for the next 5 years you plead before the same set of people who you voted to power. You have absolutely no say.
Beggars are no choosers.
Exactly. What RTI did was, in the next 5 years, RTI only gave the power to the people to be able to question the government, to seek information. But it still does not give the power to the people to participate in decision-making process.
Now there are a lot of amendments in the RTI after the RTI Act came. Now, are you happy with the amendments? Have they given more power to the people, or the act has been diluted? What are the efforts that are going on?
I don't think there's any amendment to RTI Act. RTI Act has been as it was in 2005. There's no amendment.
Not to the central act, to the local acts which came. Of course, now the central act enactment
is there everywhere. Yeah,
okay,
it is there everywhere. There's no amendment to it.
But are there any attempts made to dilute this? Are you worried that government might try to dilute?
Of course, the central government twice tried.
Are there any proposals?
Yeah, the central government twice tried to amend RTI Act and there was so much of public upheaval against it that the government had to withdraw its proposals. So the good thing is that in a very short period, RTI Act has caught the imagination of the people of this country. It seems that the act is here to stay. It will be very difficult, politically suicidal for any government to touch this law.
Since you are speaking of the Delhi experience, see, Goa was one of the first states, it was in fact a second state to have the RTI Act, and this came because of the efforts of journalists, the Goa Union of Journalists. But what I find today is, it is the common man who is asking questions under RTI. Very few, comparatively, few journalists are asking the questions if you take the statistics in Goa. What is your experience elsewhere? Are journalists using it? Because see, in Pune there is a vernacular medium magazine or newspaper, they are entirely relying on the RTI. Is something like that happening in the rest of India?
You see, the journalists' immediate reaction used to be when RTI Act came that firstly we don't need information through RTI. We have our own sources and we will get information from sources. We get stories from the sources. Secondly, they used to say we can't wait for 30 days. We have to file the story tomorrow and we need information tomorrow. Slowly and gradually what I realize is that the journalists are realizing that the kind of information that you get through RTI, you can't get through your sources. It is very reliable, it is official, and secondly, it is worth waiting for 30 days. So now the trend is changing, it is picking up. Many more journalists across the country are using RTI, getting information and filing their stories.
How safe it is being an RTI activist? We hear stories of people being murdered because they want RTI information. What has been your experience? And how do you tackle the threats?
I would like to distinguish. I wouldn't say that it is a threat only to RTI activists. In this country, the corrupt people have become so arrogant, they have become so blatant that their message to the country is, earlier, if someone used to blow whistle on corruption, they used to ignore him. And after a lot of fighting, etc., now their message is that if you raise your voice against corruption, we will not tolerate you. So it's not just about RTI activists. Anyone who raises his voice against corruption is eliminated. Satyendra Dubey was eliminated, Manjunath was eliminated, they were not RTI activists. Now with RTI what has happened is that there are many people who now have information about corruption. They file RTI, they get information about corruption. Anyone who tries to pursue that case of corruption is eliminated.
That's it.
So the people of this country now need to get united and need to demand clean governance. I'll just give you a case of Hong Kong. I had gone to Hong Kong a couple of years back. In 1970s, there was so much of corruption in Hong Kong that the police and the mafia, they colluded with each other and the crime went up very high. Lakhs of students came on the streets and that created a political will, and the Hong Kong government put an institution called Independent Commission Against Corruption, ICAC. This constituted ICAC gave them complete powers, complete resources to act against the corrupt. There were 107 officers in police department at that time. In one shot, ICAC sacked 103 officers. We need that kind of power. We need that kind of an agency in our country also. But the government will not give that agency. The people in this country will have to come on the streets.
See, they say that Indians are not literate, they are backward, no use giving them power, they are useless, they will create more problems. So how do you defend against these arguments?
No,
they don't want to return power to people, and the pretext is, no, if either they will say people are not mature, or they feel that people can be more easily corrupted.
Right.
So how do you defend?
So these are two issues. One is, I just want to say that people, as far as corruption is concerned, the people will have to come on the streets. You cannot, otherwise what is happening is that you hear about a murder of an activist taking place, shed crocodile tears, media talks about it, after 10 days it is out of the screens. We will have to raise our voice against corruption if we are really serious about it. People will have to come on the streets. Without that, the political will not be there. The second issue that you have raised, as far as the local governance is concerned, as far as the self-governance is concerned, the argument that is taken by the politicians is that if we give powers to Gram Sabhas, if we give powers to Mohalla Sabhas, if we give powers to the people to be able to decide for themselves, people will not be able to decide because they are illiterate. My question to them is that all the schemes about the government funding are made in Delhi or in the state capital. The schemes are thrust upon the people. Many of these schemes are completely absurd schemes. They decide the people's priorities. For instance, I'll give you an example. The total agriculture budget of Uttar Pradesh is 500 crores. Every single money is decided in Delhi, not even in the state. The Delhi is deciding how that money will be spent in each and every village in Uttar Pradesh. Can there be more? I mean, how can Delhi government know?
That's right. If the shoe pinches to me, I will know best.
I will know whether in agriculture we need seeds in this village, or we need water in this village, or we need irrigation in this village.